Hello everyone, Ailuromage the Magic History Cat here. Today we're going to take a look at some interesting historical references in the indie RPG game Small Saga. Small Saga is a turn-based adventure where you take control of a band of rodents making their way through the chaos of the rodent societies of the Kingdom of Rodentia, existing mostly unnoticed alongside human societies. The game takes place in the current-day city of London, and each rodent faction has their own unique history based around a real-world culture or society, and it includes a variety of folklore that pulls from our real world but is also cleverly integrated into this world's rodent societies in a way that makes sense for them. However, all of them are part of the same kingdom, so they mostly abide by the same structure despite how different they are from one another, referring to the humans as gods, and by extension refer to various items made by human hands such as tools, electronics, and toys as god weapons or god relics of various kinds. The kingdom itself is functionally stuck in the past, so to speak, as this kingdom is loosely based around medieval ideas in terms of kings, knights, and so on, but there are plenty of liberties taken to make the story more interesting and allow some great artistic freedom in how this world is presented, as it does pull from various culture throughout history. That being said, there will be parts of the game and story discussed in this video, so if you're interested in playing, nothing too major will be given away here, as this is mostly focused around the world building presented in the game, but I will make a spoiler warning just in case. So let's start off with number 1. In the rodent capital city of Merida, which is built directly under the Palace of Westminster, if you explore the city's library, you'll come across a book titled Nora's Fall. The book describes how the Shrew Empress Nora ruled the city of Meridium in a time of unrest and plague, showing little regard for the citizens. So the citizens rebelled, captured her, and had her burned alive in the city square. The fire then rapidly spread, setting the city ablaze, taking the lives of thousands of rodents, and even spreading to the godly city, referring to the human city of London above. If you read the next book titled James' Ascent, it continues the story and explains how Artura rallied an effort to stop the roaring flames of the rodent city, and though the city of Meridium was reduced to ash, they built the current grand city of Merida atop the ashes, and this current city has lasted for over 300 years. Well, if we turn to real history, in 1665, London experienced a shocking resurgence of the Black Plague that they previously suffered under in the 14th century, and this time it claimed about 15% of the total population of London, with an upwards of 60,000 lives officially documented. Merely a year later, while still recovering from the effects of the plague, London would suffer one of the worst fires of its entire history, the Great Fire of London in 1666, and it's documented that the fire swept through 13,000 dwellings and about 80 churches. And these two events happened around 350 years ago, which matches that time period mentioned in the book in the game story, alluding to these very tragic but very real historic events as the result of rodent activity affecting the world above them. For number 2, we take a look at the city of Sky Garden. When we first arrive, we are greeted by a society of gray squirrels under the flag of what they call the Wayward Star. Characters in the game will remark on how prejudiced the gray squirrels are, as they express contempt for those who aren't like them. Avoiding any big spoilers here, the gray squirrels in the story pose quite a major threat to the red squirrels. In real life, native red squirrel populations in the UK have faced problems due to gray squirrels that were introduced as an invasive species in the late 1800s that came from North America. There is plenty of scientific discussion over the effects this has had and how much this has factored into the decline of red squirrel populations. This is reflected in-game as characters will remark on changes they've seen regarding the gray squirrels, and it's apparent that the gray squirrels we meet are rather new to the kingdom in terms of the kingdom's age, which matches well to real life with how relatively new this issue is when compared to the long history of wildlife in the UK as we know it today. In the story, the Grey Squirrels will mention how the Wayward Star is what their ideology is centered around, and how the Wayward Star is a representation of their power and their destiny to rule and conquer. I believe this is a reference to two things that go hand in hand with each other. So let's turn to Christopher Columbus, who I'm confident probably everyone watching this knows who he is, but in any case, navigation during his time period in the 15th century included the use of the stars, called celestial navigation. Celestial navigation made heavy use of Polaris, also known as the Northern Star. It's important because the star is positioned in such a way relative to the axis of the Earth that it effectively remains in the same position in the sky at all times when we look at it from Earth, making it very easy as a navigation tool for any sailor in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, there is much historical debate over Christopher Columbus specifically and who really was the first to discover the New World as we call it, but the cultural legacy that Columbus has is pretty undeniable for the Western world. Columbus is more of a symbol than just a man, and the voyage itself a symbol of destiny led by the Northern Star to a new life and opportunities. Now, colonists from all over Europe had been establishing towns, missions, and so on for many years since the discovery of the New World, but it wasn't until the early 1800s that really marked the beginning of extreme official territorial expansion. With it brought well-known complications with the native populations as the settlers took more land and claimed access to its resources. The idea of destiny was still alive, and many colonists believed it was their right, and that they were doing the native population a favor by bringing them to their idea of modern standards. This cultural phenomena came to be known as manifest destiny, and this idea is depicted in a very famous painting by artist John Gast in 1872 titled American Progress. The painting depicts the settlers moving west with carriages, trains, and tools under the angelic-looking figure of a woman holding a book literally titled School Book as a symbol of education and progress while she lays wire for telecommunications. And most importantly, the woman has on her head a star known as the Star of the Empire. Looking back to this story and game, it's hard to deny the similarities here. The Grey Squirrels are a symbol of colonization that threatened the native red squirrels in their land, led by the Wayward Star, symbolically the star of their expanding empire, reflecting a real historical cultural legacy. And lastly, for number 3, we look at the town of Cronvale, a small mole city underneath the front lawn of a humble house. Cronvale in the game's lore is a very old and religiously traditional town, and you'll feel this through some of the conversations with other characters here. The town itself feels almost like an abbey, and I'm sure that's the vibe it's supposed to give off, going so far as to having the save point be a depiction of a mole and attire similar to those of the Benedictine monks of the early 5th and 6th century. The town itself was considered a center of knowledge, research, and strict adherence to tradition and religion, which coincides well with Benedictine philosophy, as monks in real life would live out their days in churches, abbeys, and monasteries, dedicating their lives to studying, researching, and maintaining church tradition. Additionally, in the throne room of this town, we can see the triquetra in their decorations. Now, the triquetra itself has Celtic roots and is a very old symbol believed to date back to at least 6th century BC. Its exact origins may forever be a mystery, but it is a culturally significant symbol, appearing all throughout what is today lands belonging to Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. However, its relation in the context of the church lies in the introduction of Christianity to these lands in the 1st century. Over time, Christianity was spread by Roman missionaries, causing thousands of converts and many Christian churches to be established. The native culture blended with Christianity Christianity in various ways over the centuries, causing the triquetra to take variated forms to be used in Christian churches. So although the triquetra had existed long before Christianity made its way to the people there, its meaning had become associated with Christian Trinitarianism as a symbol of the triune God in their churches. The symbol can still be seen among churches to this day, and it is so prominent that it even made its way all the way to Australia. The St. Thomas Catholic Church in Drysdale, Victoria, proudly features the triquetra at the top of one of its stained glass windows. In addition to this, in this same room, if we take a look at the wall here, we see a tapestry. Though I am unsure what this tapestry is representing specifically within the game's universe, based on the colors used, the way the figures are portrayed on the tapestry, and the overall format of its shape and size, it's very apparent that this tapestry is a reference to the real-life Bayeux Tapestry. The Bayeux Tapestry is an incredibly important artifact, well known among England and the Normandy region of France. It dates back to the 11th century, and it's impossible to fit on the screen because it is a painstakingly hand-woven tapestry of a jaw-dropping 70 meters long. For my fellow Americans, that's 76 yards or a little over 200 feet. This tapestry tells the grand story of William the Conqueror, King of England in the 11th century. The original 11th century tapestry is currently held in the Bayeux Museum in Bayeux, France, and a passionate handcrafted replica that was made in the 19th century is housed in the Reading Museum in England. Additionally, William the Conqueror is buried about 30 kilometers, or about 18 miles, away from the original Bayeux Tapestry in l'Abbaye aux Hommes, or the Men's Abbey, which was founded by William and served as a home for Benedictine monks for several centuries up until the French Revolution. So getting back to Cronvale and game, when looking at the aesthetic feel, the monk attire, the tapestry, and the symbolism of this town, it certainly all does feel intentional and wraps all of this in a nice little bow. Those were 3 interesting historical references in the charming game Small Saga. I love games like these, and I always get excited when I see historical references and settings like this in games and other forms of media. With that, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I hope this was fun or interesting. If you enjoyed this, consider leaving a like and telling me what you thought, especially if you have played this game yourself and want to share some other interesting points about it. And be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one. Thank you, and remember to pet a cat today.